Texas is a state currently freezing to death. Really unfortunate. Why is that happening? In all seriousness, the precedent to this is actually really interesting. I took the time to look into it, and there was more behind it than I expected there to be. Basically, what we're dealing with right now is a consequence of deregulation. It is a consequence of poor preparation for climate change, and it is a consequence of overwhelming and astounding arrogance on the part of Texan officials going back a century. So hold on. Okay. Now, if you take a look right here, United States energy grids. If you take a look at the United States energy grids, you're going to see something interesting, okay? Now, you've probably seen a little bit of this online. All right. What about this is interesting? Does anything here jump out to you? Do you see anything here that looks especially, maybe something a little distinct? See, we have three main power grids in the United States. We have the Western Interconnect, the Eastern Interconnect, and then we have the Texas Interconnect. Why? Well, it's actually pretty simple. Roosevelt, ye back in the day, established federal regulation for energy, which traveled across state lines, essentially trying to unify and coordinate the development of distribution of energy across the United States. Which Roosevelt? Which one do you think, man? You think Teddy Roosevelt was presiding over a fucking energy grid? Which one do you think? So the fine people in Texas thought, we could avoid federal regulation if we develop a separate power system and don't connect it to any other state. See, because the only way we're subject to federal regulation here is if we're connected to other states. It regulates interstate energy transmission. So if the grid is just on Texas, then it's just our problem. The federal government can't get their head in there. And that's how it was. And the what we currently call the Texas Energy Grid, ERCOT, ERCOT, was developed in 1970 after a series of devastating blackouts led to there being a need for some sort of collective management of the Texas power grid within their own state. But they're still not connected to the broader federal grid. They're still not. And I have to say, most of the time, Vosh, is there really no connection to other interconnects? I think there are ways they interconnect, and there are also parts of Texas that are on the Western and Eastern interconnect. If you see right here, you can actually see that this bit right here is part of the Western interconnect, and then the north and easternmost parts of Texas are on the Eastern interconnect. And I'm not familiar, I don't know exactly why those specific parts of the state decided to be connected to the rest of the federal grids, but whatever. So that's cool. That's fantastic. That's great. Now, one of the reasons why Texas felt comfortable operating on an independent grid is because Texas does not exactly have an issue with power generation. Texas is A, massive, which means that it has a lot of room for B, refineries, rigs, plants, and wind farms, which it C, is capable of using extensively because of its massive, massive oil reserves. So Texas wasn't in a position to think, what if we run out of power? They never really thought that, And for that reason, they didn't invest heavily in backup power systems. So a while passes, we hit 2021, okay? Big old cold snap, floods, the entire midsection of the United States. Hit Seattle, too. Not as hard as Texas, but it did hit Seattle. We got a foot of snow in just a couple of days. More than Seattle's supposed to see. But it barely dipped below the 30s here in Texas. It went well below freezing. And Texas is not exactly capable of accommodating extremely cold weather in like every conceivable way, okay? So on one hand, okay, the power grid was immediately overloaded for two main reasons. First of all, because everyone's using power to heat their homes because it is fucking freezing. And second of all, because these power plants, they go offline. The degree of infrastructural investment required in order to make sure that power plants function in extreme weather conditions varies tremendously. Anytime you build a power plant, anytime you build a wind farm, anything, anytime you build any massive piece of infrastructure, from a bridge to a skyscraper, whatever, you do so in consideration of the environment you're building it in, okay? Buildings and infrastructure built in Dubai are not at all like infrastructure built in Alaska, okay? The pipes are different, everything is different, the infrastructure is different, okay? So you get really cold weather in, say, Maine or New York, and okay, the city survives. It can deal with that. They already have money diverted towards salting the roads. They have plows. They can clear everything. Everybody has tire chains they can put on their car. The pipes are designed to accommodate cold. You know, everyone, and the people there. The people in very cold parts of the United States know how to deal with cold. They do. They know. Do you chain up your car? You know, you plow out the driveway. Make sure to keep water running to keep the pipes from freezing. Like, they know what to do. In Texas, no, not really. No. Why would they? You think people in Texas? Like, what? There are people who have been making fun of the people in Texas. I say to you, go eat shit. You fucking kidding me? Why the fuck would somebody who lives in Texas, near the fucking border to Mexico, need to familiarize themselves? I mean, an individual, not like a state official, not like a regulator, but an individual citizen. Why the fuck would they need to familiarize themselves with any of the specifics necessary to survive in incredibly cold, like, temperatures? Why? 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 Where do they live? Why would they? They moved to Texas so they wouldn't have to deal with that shit, okay? If fucking Arizona or New Mexico got hit by a blizzard one day, I know all the fucking northeastern United States dipshits would be laughing at them as they freeze to death. You don't even have 3 coats, scarves, and mittens in Phoenix, Arizona. You know, you're not ready for for fucking Ragnarok in one of the hottest developed parts of the planet. No. The people of Texas are not at fault here. So the power grid got overloaded, and there are people literally freezing to death right now in Texas. Hospitals are out of power. There are pipes bursting everywhere. The entire state is broken right now. There are, yeah. When hospitals are running out of power, I mean, that's where power goes, like, number one. When there are hospitals running out of power, you know things are really, really far gone. People are burning stuff to stay warm. I've seen people like Beau of the Fifth Column, for whom I have a lot of respect, talking about how you shouldn't be burning. What was it? It was called like treated wood or something like that. You don't want to burn stuff inside, okay? If you're inside, or if you're fucking freezing, okay, and you want to burn something, burn it outside and heat rocks. You want to heat rocks and then bring those rocks inside. If you burn inside, there are chemicals and smoke. You could flood your entire house. Yeah. The specifics, you don't want to burn stuff in your house. Yeah. The whole state is just on lockdown right now, and because it's all on a separate power grid, because it's all on a because it's all on its own line, help's not really coming, not quickly anyway. Here's a slightly better map. You can see that there are back-to-back HVDC. As I understand it, these are like sort of auxiliary connections. Like, it's not a complete disconnect, but the lines, keep in mind that electricity is a physical thing. Power lines can only carry so much of it at any given point. There are limits to the degree to which you can saturate a power line with electricity. So just because there are lines connected, you don't need one. You need real infrastructure developed to pass this energy along. Now, of course, naturally. Oh yeah, this Texas mayor said we don't owe you anything and resigned. This was phenomenal, okay? I'm really glad this person resigned, because at the point America's at right now, and the point for how much I expect, generally speaking, of like Texas Republicans, I feel like there was no reason for us to expect this would be received poorly, you know what I mean? The mayor of a small Texas town who told residents they were owed nothing as many went without power or heat during a deadly cold snap has resigned. Nobody owes you or your family anything, Tim Boyd, the mayor of Colorado City, Texas, wrote Tuesday in a since-deleted Facebook post. I'm sick and tired of people looking for a damn handout. You can find the full thing somewhere else, but that's basically the gist of it. Oh, well, here's the whole Facebook post. Should we? Do we dare? Yeah, you know what? Why not? Let's do it. Let me hurt some feelings while I have a minute. No one owes you or your family anything, nor is it the local government's responsibility to support you during trying times like this. Sink or swim, it's your choice. The city and county, along with power providers or any other service, owes you nothing. I'm sick and tired of people looking for a damn handout. If you don't have electricity, you step up and come up with a game plan to keep your family warm and safe. What the fuck? You don't have what game plan? What? Start eating each other? What? If you have no water, you deal without and think outside the box to survive and supply water to your family. If you're sitting at home in the cold because you have no power and are sitting there waiting for someone to come rescue you because you're lazy is direct result of your raising. Only the strong will survive and the weak will perish. How do I pronounce the typo here? Perish. Folks, God has given us the tools to support ourselves in times like this. This is sadly a product of a socialist government where they feed people to believe that the few will work and others will become dependent on the handouts. Am I sorry that you have been dealing with electricity and water? Yes, but I'll be damned if I'm going to provide for anyone that is capable of doing it themselves. We have lost sight of those in need and those who take advantage of the system and meshed them into one group. Bottom line, quit crying and looking for a handout. Get off your ass and take care of your family. Bottom line again, don't be a part of problem. Be a part of the solution. And then he resigned. I like that the Texan Republican spirit of independence has gone so far that it's circled around and went back to the subservient authoritarian position of your public officials don't owe you anything. Hold on, my dudes. We voted them in. Yeah, they fucking do. What the fuck do you mean they don't owe us anything, okay? We literally voted. I'm sorry, is the process of voting for government officials just deciding who gets like a random salary? Like you just randomly get a salary? And if you're high up enough, what, diplomatic immunity? What? No. We literally put you there. We pay your salary to do jobs for us. That's your job. Right now, he's the one looking for a handout. Well, and then he resigned. But this right here is him looking for a handout. It is his job to be a part of the solution to this, and he doesn't want to do that job. So instead, he blames the people who elected him to do this job. It's a very common attitude amongst conservatives. This public officials don't owe you anything. Yeah, they fucking do, actually no. Well, hold on. Think about that for a second. Yeah, they do. Yes. Yes. We voted for them. That's the point. They serve us. That is their job. Anyway, we're not done yet. So, as you can see, the state's been taking it well. So, why did the state's power system fail? Well, the state's power system failed because its energy infrastructure was not modernized to accommodate any of the developments necessary to survive extreme weather conditions, disparate to those expected in those parts of Texas. Climate change is a fact of the world. We know this is the case because every institution on the planet, or every reasonable institution on the planet, whose business is affected by climate change has begun to adapt and accommodate. But Republicans do not live in the world that we live in. They do not live in reality, so they do not accommodate or develop their infrastructure. Yes, apparently they passed up on an opportunity in 2011 to actually modernize their infrastructure for severe weather conditions. And again, I want to be perfectly clear here. It is not the responsibility of the average Texan to be ready for this. It is the responsibility of the people those Texans vote for. Yeah. Look at this. Look at this. Texas. See a picture like this. Texas? Texas. Look at that. What is this? What are we doing here? What is this? Look at this. What's going on here? Now, notice we're not getting these massive problems with states up here in the north, even though they're ostensibly colder than Texas is right now, because these states up here, you know, you have Idaho and Montana, Nebraska, whatever, the Dakotas, these states are capable of accommodating cold weather conditions. And for that reason, even though it's colder there, they can handle it. Even though it is admittedly still quite cold. It's still cold. What a why I never thought I'd see like a temperature map like this in the United States. This looks so fucking unreal. Like what it looks like somebody just like drew randomly with a marker all over this, you know? Like, okay, so Oregon's fine, and we're fine over here. Oh yeah, but Texas. But Texas. It looks like somebody gave the heartland of America a fucking bruise. Not to be blamed for any of the things that are absolutely and undeniably their fault, immediately cries went out from the conservative intelligentsia claiming that the reason why the Texan energy grid failed was because the wind turbines had frozen up. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. Just real quick, just think about that, okay? I'm going to Google Alaskan wind turbines. Gets pretty cold in Alaska. And whoa, look at that. Wind exchange, wind energy in Alaska. It looks like, wow. It looks like wind energy exists in Alaska, despite, on average, significantly colder temperatures than what we're seeing in Texas right now. Almost as though this has more to do with adapting those energy systems to extreme weather conditions, more so than anything inherently wrong with wind. I do want to give credit, though. The conservatives were given kind of a free hand here because Texas, in part because of its independent energy grid, actually is the forefront of renewable energy development in America. I bet you didn't know that, did you? I sure as shit didn't. But take a look at this. In Texas, wind and other non-hydroelectric renewables, hydroelectric, make up 23% of the state's power grid, which is more than coal by a pretty significant amount, too. And if you take a look at trends, I saw on another website, there were charts. I don't know if this one has it, but coal has been going down, whereas wind and others have been going up steadily. Natural gas is where the majority of the Texas energy grid comes from, and it seems like that's largely replaced coal. But there's no denying that that right now the renewable energy grid is going up pretty quick. Yeah, right now about half is natural gas, a quarter is wind. Look at that. Coal is about 1/8, nuclear is about 5%, solar is about 4%, and then hydro and biomass-fired units about 2%. Vosh, if I recall correctly, those numbers are off. We changed the percentage of our energy production depending on the season. Yes, I'm pretty sure that during the winter months in Texas, wind makes up less of a proportion of the total energy generated. I think that during winter, a greater proportion is reliant on fossil fuels, and then during the summer, it's less the case. There's some variance depending on it's about 18 to 20% in winter. Yeah, because different power needs, different, yeah. Plus, maybe during the summer, the wind blows more. I don't know. I'm not a power grid expert. The point that I'm trying to get at here is that the situation that Texas is in right now is completely and fucking absolutely avoidable. This could have been avoided 100%. There are people dying over there right now. There are people right now while this segment is being recorded who are probably going to last, another day? I think, probably, from how bad things are going on over there. This feels like some developing country shit. And pardon me for sounding chauvinist with my purported superiority of the American state, but we have the money and the infrastructure to prevent bullshit like this from happening. We're absolutely and 100% capable of doing that. And we don't. The reason why we don't, the reason why we didn't, is because of an incredibly bullheaded insistence that Texas's energy grid remain independent, A. B, an unwillingness to update their power grid to make it more accommodating of climate change. And C, shit like this. This is culture war bullshit right here. This is from 1 day ago. Perry says Texans willing to suffer blackouts to keep feds out of the power market. Now, I want to be real fucking clear about something, okay? I want to be extremely, extraordinarily clear. There is not a Texan alive who gives a fuck about the independence of the Texan power. I'd be willing to bet most of them didn't even know. I'd be willing to bet most of them didn't even know their energy was independent because they did not make the Texas energy grid independent for the benefit of the fucking consumer. They made it for the benefit of the companies that didn't want to suffer federal regulation. This would be like saying like Americans willing to suffer economic catastrophes to keep feds out of Wall Street regulation. That's what this sounds like right here. That's what this sounds like right here. Unironically, like, you know, the American people are very invested in, deregulating Wall Street. Texans will be without electricity for longer than 3 days to keep the federal government out of their business. Being without electricity for longer than 3 days is fatal, okay? This isn't electricity out for 3 days during like a sunny spring, summer day or whatever. This is 3 days during a cold snap. These are people freezing to death in their houses. These are hospitals unable to take care of their patients. Try not to let whatever the crisis of the day is take your eye off having a resilient grid that keeps America safe personally, economically, and strategically. How the fuck does Texan grid independence keep America safe personally, economically, and strategically? What the literal fuck does that mean? How is it keeping people safe in any of these regards? First of all, what does this have to do with America? Second of all, how the fuck is it keeping people safe? They're literally dying right now. Who the hell writes that? Well, Perry said that. My friend is on day 4 without power, heat, or water, and she has like a 9-year-old sister, and I'm worried about them. Yeah, you should fucking be worried about them. It's abundantly clear that all the people in Texas who had the power to prevent this from happening don't give a fuck about their constituencies. And we'll talk about Ted Cruz in a fucking moment. Okay? We'll talk about Ted Cruz. We'll get there. Jesus Christ. From a source in Dell Children's Hospital in Austin this morning. Yes, I am. There's still no water. Oh, yeah, people, by the way, water's gone, too. No water in a lot of places, too. I know there was a broken pipe on the 4th floor. I don't know if that's the primary cause of the outage. The toilets are filling up and won't flush, so the nurses are using kitty litter and trash bags to dispose of waste. The temperature in our room seems stable, but the main areas are very cold. We are waiting on a surgery, but I'm not sure when it will be or if they can operate without water. The nurses and staff are working very hard and staying positive. That's where Texas is at right now. Garbage bags full of kitty litter to dispose of human waste. America, wealthiest country on earth. They're not treating the water in Texas. They're on a boil water order. Oh, I didn't even fucking mention that. They're on a boil water order. The fucking water that is running right now in the parts of Texas that does have water isn't potable. They're ordering people to boil it. With what? With what energy? Boil with what exactly? How boil it with what energy? How exactly do you? What, like, not everyone can make a fucking campfire. People live in cities. Also, people don't have wood to burn. Like, we don't. What, dude, this is a modern country. Not everybody has a fucking wood stock pile. People have heaters. If you live in Texas right now, first of all, I don't know how the fuck you're watching me. You should probably be saving your electricity for something more useful. But if you know people who live in Texas right now, or if for some reason you're watching me from Texas, there are mutual aid organizations that you can take a look at. Merrick has some on her Twitter. Gas stoves are at least more common in Texas. Yeah, except natural gas is also being shorted. There are mutual aid orgs that I think you all should look to benefit from. Godspeed, seriously, and good luck with all this. Eventually, this will be fixed. The only thing that we can really look towards is that after this is fixed, we fix the political problems that led to this being a problem. Okay? That's what we need to do. Okay? After we get this thing fixed, like, this wasn't some random act of God. This wasn't some crazy fucking accident. This didn't come out of nowhere. Everything that's happened right now is a direct and deliberate product, a very specific product of the people that were elected and the people who were put in power, and the decisions, the bad decisions that they made, okay? And I'm not going to lie to you guys, there is a heavy Republican slant to those series of bad decisions. A very heavy Republican slant.